In today's video, we are exploring the mysteries in stone just outside Nicosia. From a church built inside a cave, to ghost-quiet villages that feel like they're frozen in time. We will bring you to the most remote villages in Cyprus. We will also visit the breathtaking church of Our Lady of the Golden Cave in a place called Deftera. We will drive through a dreamy forest in Machairas National Forest Park, and then into the old world of Fikardou, Gourri and Lazanias. Hi everyone, and today we are away from the politics of Nicosia and into the peace of the Pitsilia region. It was a perfect sunny 20 degrees Celsius morning. We are at the Church of Our Lady of the Golden Cave in Deftera. The staircase winds right along the cliff face. It's dramatic, it's beautiful, and it immediately makes you wonder, why build a church here? What is so special about this spot? What this really means is this isn't just a church. It's a centuries-old sanctuary. The name literally means Golden Cave. Legend says an icon of the Virgin Mary was found here, glowing like gold. We stepped inside, and honestly, it took my breath away. It's a natural cave, but they've carved and built the church right into the rock. The interior is cool, quiet, and feels utterly ancient. Look at these natural rock walls. You can see where they smoothed them down and added the frescoes. The true significance of this church in the cave is that these places were refuges. During periods of persecution, like the Arab raids, hermits and Christians came here to worship and hide. Deftera is a classic Cypriot village area just outside Nicosia, only about 15 kilometers southwest of the city center by road, which usually takes roughly 30 minutes to drive. It's actually made up of two neighboring communities, Pano or Upper Deftera and Kato or Lower Deftera, both nestled along the Panagia River at about 300 meters above sea level. Today, it's still a real working village, a mix of everyday life with some lovely old churches scattered through it, like the St. Nicholas Church. Now, it is time to drive deeper into the lost parts of Cyprus. And this is the Machairas National Forest Park. This forest is quiet but magic. Tall trees, gravel edges, twisty uphill roads that feel straight out of a nature documentary. And we were the only ones on the road. At one viewpoint, we stopped just to breathe it all in. The sweeping hills, the endless horizon, the kind of scenery that makes you go, wow. You can breathe the freshest air. It's pure tranquility. Then my wife spotted this structure way off in the distance, and it looks like a big monastery. Before she could open her mouth, I said, "Let's go there." And that, my friends, is how a truly great trip is planned. On a whim, the road signs told us we were roughly 5 kilometers to Kionia, 12 kilometers to Vavatsania, places I have never heard of. We were officially deep in the heart of Cyprus. The roads wound downhill again, getting even narrower. Eventually, we pulled up to the magnificent holy monastery of Panagia. It is tucked deep in these hills, and the drive down was along narrow and winding roads, often making us question if we were still on the right track. We walked in and some areas we couldn't film out of respect, so apologies ahead of time, but we'll show as much as possible. And ladies, if you plan to visit, do make sure shoulders and knees are covered. They're very strict about it here. You'll often see signs in Greek, but the rule is simple. Modesty. You're entering a sacred space. The monastery is massive, imposing, and sits right in this little basin, surrounded by mountains. We got lost at some point inside, and got redirected by someone working there. This is one of the 3 royal and Stavropegic monasteries of Cyprus, meaning it's autonomous, and reports directly to the archbishop, not the local bishop. The legend is that an icon of the Virgin Mary, supposedly painted by Apostle Luke, was hidden in a cave here, only to be found centuries later by hermits guided by divine grace. That's where the monastery's name comes from. Machairas means machete or knife, because legend says a machete was used to clear the way to the icon. Inside, it's like walking through layers of time. Old bricks, sweeping views, and the calm you only find in places that have been prayed in for hundreds of years. This place dates back to the 12th century. We were the only ones here, and it felt slightly intimidating as we were not really sure which part where exactly we could or could not film. Inside the church is a definite no filming policy. Wandering around, looking at the courtyards, felt like we were discovering a true secret of Cyprus travel. A totally tranquil escape. Next up, Fikardou Village. From the monastery, it was only about 20 minutes. But those were 20 thrilling minutes. The road was barely wide enough for one car, and my wife was feeling stressed in the car. There was hardly any space for 2 to pass safely, let alone. We had cliffs on one side. We stopped again at a viewpoint, and the views were absolutely magnificent. Take a deep breath. Machairas Forest Park air. We reached Fikardou Village. It's famous for being an architectural heritage site. We saw quite a few cars parked at the entrance, so we thought it would be buzzing. But we walked into the old village, and it was deserted. We were the only ones there. Have you ever seen anything like this? These stone houses, the rocky paths. They look abandoned, like a beautiful, preserved ghost town. We were told that only one person still lives here year-round. This place feels like stepping into a stone postcard. We walked through old rocky paths, past stone houses, each one whispering stories of old. Some look like they haven't changed in 200 years. Oh, here's an open door. Let's go in. We stumbled on the Fikardou Rural Museum. And get this, we were literally the only visitors. The kind lady in charge there opened up parts of the house just for us. She gave us a personal guided tour. Totally unexpected, totally magical. And we really want to take a moment to thank her for her time. So kind lady, if you're watching today, please accept our sincere thanks once again. This house was preserved to show us rural life in the 18th and 19th centuries. Look at the old kitchen, the tools, the way they used to live. It was an amazing, intimate peek into traditional Cyprus village's life. Have you ever had a local completely open up a place just for you? Comment with your favorite unforgettable moment. Then suddenly my wife turned and looked at me. To be honest, I was halfway expecting what she was going to say. And I just said, okay, let's go. If you have been watching our videos and following us by now, I am sure that you can also guess it. That's right. My wife's stomach was rumbling, and it was time for food. So we walked around the town, hoping that there will be an open restaurant, or at least somewhere we can sit down and grab a bite. Fikardou is this tiny village, and it sits high on the slopes of the Troodos Mountains. At about 900 meters above sea level, surrounded by forest and silence that feels almost sacred. Back in the day, this place was a proper rural settlement where villagers made their living from vineyards, olives, walnuts, cereals, and wine. But here's the thing. Like so many mountain villages in Cyprus, the pull of city life eventually emptied this place out. Young people left in search of jobs and modern comforts in Nicosia, Larnaca, or abroad. Over time, the population shrank dramatically, and by the early 1900s, it was basically abandoned by its original residents. To protect this incredible snapshot of rural life, the entire village was declared an ancient monument in 1978. Yiannakos Restaurant is the local spot where the whole vibe of this almost deserted village turns into something warm and lively. We walked in, and it felt like half the village was here. Not in population, since most houses are empty, but everyone who was around had somehow gathered here. Laughter, plates clinking, the aroma of wood fire ovens, and slow-cooked goodness. It was exactly the sort of contrast this whole trip is about. Peaceful village, quiet on the outside. Joyful life bubbling inside. After our amazing lunch in Fikardou, we hopped back in the car. And just a few minutes down this mountain road, we unexpectedly pulled into Gourri village. It sits at the foothills of the Machairas Forest and has been inhabited for centuries. Gourri is a small, traditional mountain village. Only a few hundred people live here year-round. Some sources say the permanent population is less than 300 residents, although on weekends and holidays that number swells a bit when families return and tourists show up to soak in the views and atmosphere. The vibe here is utterly rustic. Traditional stone architecture dominates, and it feels like the village prefers being itself, quiet, unhurried, grounded. Right in the heart of Gourri sits the Church of St. George, built in the late 1800s, and nearby is a folk art museum where you can see local crafts and textiles. After wandering the peaceful lanes of Gourri, we turned onto another twisty mountain road and suddenly found ourselves in Lazanias. It is one of those tiny Cyprus mountain villages that feels like you've stumbled into a time capsule. Lazanias sits up high in the Machairas forest area, at about 900 meters above sea level, tucked between Gourri and Pharmacus. It's only a short drive from Gourri, and here's the fun little fact. This village is tiny, like really tiny, with less than 50 people living there. The village is an architectural gem of narrow, spiral alleys and houses made of adobe with traditional tiled roofs and wooden balconies. We walked through the village narrow, stone-paved streets that seemed to carry us deeper into the mountains. The houses were built with old-school wooden beams, with carved windows, and doors that seemed to have personalities of their own. To be honest, It felt like no one has lived here for years. That's until we reached this guest house. It is a museum and a cafe, all in one. I gotta ask, would you love a tiny village like this? Or would the quiet make you start narrating to yourself? Let me know in the comments. On the way back to Nicosia, we made a last spontaneous stop at St. George Church Kapades, perched quietly in a little settlement. Here's what this day really taught us. Some places don't scream for attention. They whisper. Hidden churches and caves, mountain monasteries, villages paused in time. That's Cyprus beyond the guidebooks. Hit subscribe if you're into humble travel with big heart stories. And ring that bell so you never miss a journey. Until next time, from World with Wife, where every road tells a